ResortLoop.com is proud to be sponsored by Joffrey's Coffee and Tea, the official specialty coffee of Disney Parks. You can find Joffrey's Coffee and specialty drinks in the parks, at Disney Springs, or online at Joffreys.com.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas. To our new passengers, aloha and welcome aboard.
Ho, ho, ho!
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. I'm Tim Scott. This is ResortLoop.com. HolidayThon continues. Actually, HolidayThon starts. And we always start HolidayThon with a good friend of the show. So excited to have him on. You know him from such places as TouringPlans.com, The Unofficial Guys, and even Disney Dish with Jim Hill. It's Len Testa. Len, thanks for joining us.
How's it going, Tim?
It's going well. It's cold in Ohio now, but it is almost Christmas Day. It's Christmas Eve as we speak.
No. Oh, good. So hopefully all of the stockings are hung by the chimney with care, and we can talk.
We can
freely
talk
amongst ourselves.
Freely, absolutely. And my daughter made Baby Yoda cookies, by the way.
Really? So I made the mistake of saying Baby Yoda at Rise of the Resistance, and immediately got corrected by cast members who said it's the child. Okay.
All right. Okay.
Fair enough.
There you go.
But seriously, where can I find the Baby Yoda plush? No, seriously.
I need to spend money. You'll point me in the right direction, I'm assuming.
Exactly.
Anyway, I want to talk on the show because I've not heard too much. I've actually been waiting for this moment to hear about Rise of the Resistance and how it's going. How did it start? I want to hear your take. Yep. The attraction, yes. So
it opened December 5th at Hollywood Studios. It's opening January 17th, 2020 at Disneyland in the Disneyland Park. I got there, so I figured it would be a much anticipated opening.
Mm-hmm.
And unlike when Millennium Falcon or Galaxy's Edge opened, Disney wasn't doing anything special in terms of park hours. So there wasn't going to be annual pass holder previews. There weren't going to be DVC previews, no previews of any kind. And part of that was because the ride, Disney needed every possible moment to get the ride done.
Right.
It's technically complex. There's a lot of things going on. As they say, there's both literally and figuratively a lot of moving parts in the ride. So Disney needed every minute to actually finish the ride so it could run on December 5th. That's why nobody got previews. And that's important for reasons we will find out later on.
Okay.
As we talk. So nothing special was happening December 5th. The night before December 5th, I went to Target and I bought a large thermos and some hot cocoa, coffee, tea, snacks, and solar blankets because, as Floridians, we're used to like 70-degree temperatures, but on the night of December 4th going into December 5th, the temperature is going to be in the low 40s.
Ooh.
And I figured we're going to be standing around for many hours. We're going to be cold. Let's prepare for this. So I went to Target, got all these supplies. Around midnight, I started boiling 2 gallons of water to put in this thermos, and I got it done. I ended up at the park. I got dropped off at Boardwalk around 2 a.m., and I started walking towards the studios. And interestingly, at 2 a.m., so 4 hours before the park's official opening at 6 a.m., I was not even close to the first person in line.
Wow.
So, Tim, you've walked that walk between the Boardwalk and the studios, right?
It's a long one.
Yeah, so it's about half a mile or so.
Yeah.
You go under a couple of bridges. Disney security had actually stopped people at the second bridge, the bridge closest to the new bus stations at Hollywood Studios.
Okay.
And security wasn't there. And what they said essentially was, if you go past this point, we'll trespass you. Right? We'll kick you off property for trespass, but use the bathrooms if you need to. So it's basically like a gentleman's agreement, if you will, or a gentle person's agreement that you're not going to go beyond this bridge until we come back and get you. And everyone was pretty cool about it.
Okay.
So we hunkered under the bridge for a few hours. I gave out my hot cocoa and everything, and all of my solar blankets that I had brought for cold people. And then around 5 a.m., they walked us to the bus station itself. And there were definitely more people there. And then at 5:30, they brought us through the security checkpoints and onto the front gate. And that's important. So 5:30, the park was opening at 6. And by the time we got to the security, to the tap styles, the entire place was full. So all of that area in front of the tap styles was completely full. All of the area between, the ticket booths at the studios, all the area between the ticket booths and the security places were completely filled with people.
Oh, wow.
And security had started to back up beyond that. but we got into the park, and the good thing is the cast members are telling you as soon as you enter the park, open the MDE app or find a cast member with an iPad to join a boarding group. So you're familiar with the boarding groups and how they're running?
I've heard about them. How many people are in these boarding groups?
We don't know.
Okay.
And I believe it actually changes every day.
Okay, gotcha.
But it could be as many as 100, I'm guessing, maybe a little bit more.
Okay.
But the idea is this. Boarding groups work basically as a fast pass without a specific time commitment. And so you join a boarding group, and they'll give you a number between, let's say, 1 and 120. And the first boarding group called is number 1, and you'll have 2 hours to return to the ride and ride it. And if you have a later boarding group, let's say you're boarding group 50 or 90 or 120, Disney will give you an approximate time of day in which they think you could ride. So, for example, boarding group 40 might get morning, boarding group 70 might get afternoon, and boarding group 110 might get evening. So you know approximately a time window of how much time you have until you're called.
Okay, they just give you a time. The Experience app doesn't notify you or anything like that. Is that how it works?
They do actually notify you, yeah. But initially,
gotcha.
when they're first giving them out, they give you a broad time range. Again, morning, late morning, afternoon, evening.
All right.
That was it. And the reason for that is, again, the ride, when it opened, was not 100% reliable. In fact, to this day, as we're recording this, I don't think the ride has run anywhere close to 100% capacity. It is technically a very complex ride, and Disney's having trouble working the kinks out. My guess is they would have preferred to open it a month later, but once the December 5th date was said, that was the day it was opening. So on opening day, we get our boarding group, and the first boarding group gets on board. They started for some reason on that day with boarding group 10. Boarding group 10 was the first boarding number given out. Okay. Boarding group 10 and 11 get on the ride. And we expect sort of the line to sort of move because they're calling different boarding groups. 5 minutes in, I get a text from somebody who was in the first boarding group, and they said the ride stopped and they're evacuating us. Ride literally broke down within 15 minutes of opening day. It's fine. So they and that was a pattern sort of that happened throughout the day. The ride would get people on, it would break down or something would happen, they'd dump everybody off the ride. And when they did that, they gave everybody fast passes to come back. So I was in boarding group 28, which was, as soon as the ride broke down, my boarding group went from early morning to afternoon. Boarding group 28. So imagine Disney saying, you're essentially within the first 1,800 people or so to ride the ride. Come back this afternoon. Imagine the hourly capacity that they're anticipating at that point.
Right.
Not very good.
Right.
So everybody who had gotten dumped from the ride had gotten paper fast passes, and the idea was that when the ride came back up, you could just you didn't need a boarding group at that point. You could just use your fast pass to go back in. So that's how I had got on. I will say this, Tim. I had actually had a little bit of a head start notice that Rise of the Resistance was going to open on December 5th. So way back in July, before the official opening date was announced, I booked a VIP tour for December 5th, figuring that VIP tours would get access. It turns out I got a call the Sunday before the Thursday that it opened saying that VIP tours would not get access, special access to the ride. Yeah, I know. Wow. Hopefully it was within my 5-day resort cancellation room-only booking window. So I couldn't even cancel all of the rooms that I had booked for people to come in from all over the country because I'd basically flown people in from all over to ride the ride. It was helpful, Disney. Thanks. Send me a customer service survey on that one.
There you go. Press 5.
Yeah, exactly. Press 5 for survey. So anyway, it ends up that for me to ride the first time, I had to rely on a bunch of people that I knew in earlier boarding groups getting kicked off the ride when it broke down, getting a couple of extra paper fast passes, and us getting in that way.
Okay.
And so I rode. Enough about the mechanical problems with the ride, which we'll talk about later. Let me just say this. It's the best ride Disney's done in like 30 years. Really? Without except. Yeah, it's hard to even come up with another ride that does everything that this ride does in one. I came up with maybe Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey over at Universal, maybe. Mm-hmm. But that's it. Like, there's no other ride that combines the scope, the scale, the technology, the storytelling, the music, all of it into one. I mean, it's a fantastic ride. So have you heard about the ride?
I've heard a little bit about it. I've seen some videos, but I've not delved too much into it.
Okay, can I do some spoilers?
Yes, I will say right now, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Okay, so
Continue.
I'm not gonna. I'll actually skip the main part of the ride. I'll tell you how the pre-shows work.
Okay.
Okay. So you know how when you go into the Haunted Mansion in the Magic Kingdom, the first thing you see is the stretching room.
Yes.
And the stretching room is two things. One, it's a pre-show, right? Sort of sets the environment, the theming of the show. And number two, it basically functions as a capacitor, as a pulse motor to manage the queue, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
you
have to go through the stretch. Okay. So the first 4 scenes of Rise of the Resistance are essentially stretching rooms where your pulsing crowd, you're in the line, but they're pulsing you through at fixed intervals to manage the overall weight. So the first stretching room, if you will, is a briefing room with BB-8 and Rey. But you don't see Rey initially. Initially, it's just BB-8 sort of rolling around. And then Rey comes on in a hologram, and it is a fantastic hologram. So she's above you. She's on like she's about 6 feet off the ground is where the hologram starts. So you're looking up at her. But it is fantastically clear. It looks exactly like a hologram from a movie. So Disney has stayed true to form there.
Wow.
It looks great. It sounds great. I actually walked around it. So you can go like 180 degrees from side to side around it. And the clarity of the hologram at every viewing angle is really impressive. Like, I was simply impressed that Disney could handle that kind of projection that way. It was really well done. An amazing projection set. So Rey tells you that she needs you to become part of the rebellion, but you need to leave the planet, right? And you're going to go to another planet, but don't tell. If you get the First Order is desperate to find out what planet you're on right now, so they can find the rebel base. Don't tell them. All right, that's the key. So that sets up the premise of the ride.
Okay.
From there, you go outside onto a transport ship. So you're being transported to another planet. You physically go outside, like under the sky.
I was going to say you're inside, then you go outside. Nice.
Inside, then you go outside. And so imagine you're entering like a troop transport that's pointed north, right? So the back of the ship is south, the front of the tip is up or north, and you're entering from the left side, from the east. Okay.
Okay.
And the distinction is important for a reason I'll tell you next. So you're in the transport ship, and there's an animatronic pilot. There are video screens all around. You take off, and you remember the old hydrolators from Living Seas?
Loved them.
Okay. Exactly. Shout out to the hydrolators. Yeah, this effect is like that. So the ground shakes. It's simulated movement, if you will, for you taking off. But it feels good. And there are handrails that you can hand on. You could put your hands on. But at this point, you're standing, right? So it's not like Star Tours or anything like that. It's relatively mild. Okay. As you're being transported from planet to planet, of course, in the fine tradition of Disney attractions, something goes wrong, and you are captured by a First Order Star Destroyer. You're sucked up in a tractor beam and pulled aboard a Star Destroyer.
Uh-oh.
And here's where it gets interesting. Remember I said that you entered the transport ship from the left?
Yes.
Right, and you were outside. The exact same door opens now, but now you're inside the hangar of a Star Destroyer.
Whoa.
So you don't go out the other door, you go out the same door. And this blew my mind, Tim. I was like, the door opened, and I'm looking around like, does anyone else just see what happened here? Or is it just me? Like,
right.
Is anyone else freaking out here? Yeah, so you go onto the hangar. To the transport ship is stretching room number 2. The hangar is stretching room number 3. And this looks exactly like it does in the videos that Disney's put out. Okay. It's a really large set, incredibly detailed. I mean, the shiny floor, the stormtroopers, the ships hanging from the ceiling. In terms of detail, it's very, very good. And you're actually in here in groups of, I would say, no more than 20 or so, maybe 30 tops.
Okay. Wow.
And you actually have time to take selfies. This is your Instagram moment. In the back is of course, the open space, like in the deep space part of the hangar. And Disney's put images of TIE fighters flying back there and other Star Destroyers sort of floating past. It looks really good. And you're allowed to hang out here for a few minutes until the next group comes in. So it's really not rushed. It's not super crowded. It feels like a personal experience, like you've been captured and you're being processed in a small group. It doesn't feel like a line.
Oh, wow.
At all. And then you move into from there you move into the destroyer itself. And I will say here, this is where, like the first two scenes, the fact that the door opened onto the Star Destroyer blew my mind. The hologram blew my mind. But once you're actually in the line itself, it looks exactly like the movies. Like the walls and the lighting look exactly like the movies. If you've been watching The Mandalorian, I think it was episode 6 where he was on that prisoner transport ship. It looks like that. I mean,
wow.
It looks exactly like that. The color schemes, the stuff on the walls, the lighting is the same intensity of lighting. It's more like a movie set than anything I've ever seen from Disney. It's way more realistic to me than even the Millennium Falcon was.
Wow, it sounds incredible.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that the cast members here are all wearing the Imperial or the First Order black uniforms, and the uniforms look exquisite. They're also in character, like they are at Haunted Mansion or Tower of Terror or Jungle Cruise, where they're playing the part. Okay. So they're calling you rebel scum and forcing you to line up in straight lines. Basically, they're organizing the queue, right? Mm-hmm. But they're doing it in character, and it was fantastic. Like I said, it looks like the movies. Super impressive. So from there, you're held for a little bit in this long hallway, and eventually they want to send you to an interrogation cell where Kylo Ren is going to force you to disclose the location of the rebel base. So they put you in a cell with only one door that you enter through a cell door, and it locks behind you. And then you see video images above you of Kylo Ren and the guards talking about how they're going to interrogate you. Kylo Ren gets called away, and the guards basically say, "Wait here while wait here for your torture." And then this is the last of the stretching rooms. And I was actually given a hint on this, and the hint I was given was there's a secret door somewhere in the interrogation cell. So I knew that going in, and I looked for the secret door, and I couldn't find it. Like I looked for the ride actually broke down or was delayed the first time I wrote it, and so I had like 15 minutes in the cell. And I looked for 15 minutes for the door, and I couldn't find it. I was pushing all the buttons. I was pulling off like plastic caps of the thermostat or whatever. Right. I was looking for it. Okay, you're in the cell, and all of a sudden an orange light appears on one of the walls, and it's like a plasma cutter, and the wall gets cut away, and someone from the other side of the wall jumps in and says, "We're with the resistance. We're here to save you. Follow me." And so they've cut a hole in the wall where the panel of the wall falls out like it's been cut. But you can't tell when you're in the room where that's going to be. It's really an amazing effect.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
So they bring you out of the interrogation cells, and there are 2 ride vehicles there. Each ride vehicle has 2 rows with 4 people in each row. So 8 people per ride vehicle, 2 ride vehicles, 16 people. So there's no more than 16 people in an interrogation cell. And that's when the ride actually begins. So to this point, I'm like, if there was no ride, if this was a walkthrough experience, this would get like 4.5 stars for me just on the visuals. Okay, but the ride is amazing.
Oh, wow.
So you start off with one ride vehicle in front of the other, and the idea is that they've found escape pods for you to get off of the Star Destroyer, and you just have to navigate your way through the Star Destroyer to get to the escape pod. You jettison, and then you'll go back to your home planet, right? So of course, you start off, and it's a tour of basically the Star Destroyer, and it looks again like the movies. The lighting, the droids that go by you, everything looks super realistic. And these are not small sets like Haunted Mansion. These are soundstage size rooms that you're going through. And the other interesting thing is that you're not always front and back with the 2 ride vehicles. They weave in front of and behind each other as you're going along.
Okay.
Like each of them is independently controlled by their droid robot. Mm-hmm. And that it really adds to the effect because it doesn't feel like a ride at this point. It really feels like we've got 2 independently moving things here, and we're doing our best to get through the ride. Okay, so invariably you're discovered along the path to your escape pod. A chase scene ensues. I won't go into the details. I will mention 2 effects. One, have you seen the video where you're in the room with the walkers, the AT-ATs?
Yes.
Okay, it is every bit as good in person as it looks on the video. Like of Disney's simulated some of the blaster fire. That part's not very realistic, but being in that room is the oh my god moment as one of the oh my god moments of the ride. Like I can't believe they actually built this entire thing. It's massive.
Wow.
The other thing is you're chased through Kylo Ren, and I won't give the entire part of the ride away. There's one part though where you're being chased by Kylo Ren. A door shuts, and Kylo Ren takes his lightsaber and starts cutting through the ceiling. And Jim Hill and I had talked about this on our podcast in 2017 when Disney filed a patent for how to do this effect. We thought it was going to be. We knew it was going to be for the ride. Mm-hmm. We just didn't know how they were going to pull it off. But I knew the effect was coming, and I knew it was in the ride. But to see it happening, it is so seamless and so good. Like I've read the patent, I still don't know how it works.
Wow.
I have no idea. It is amazing, and I've done the ride 5 or 6 times now. I've stared at it like 4 of the 5 times. Like, okay, how are they actually doing this? Because it looks like there's at one point it's a solid metal ceiling, and a second later it's being melted and cut by a flaming lightsaber, and I don't know how they do it. It's that good.
Whoa.
So I won't give away all of the middle part, but obviously you don't die. You do escape in an escape pod, and your escape pod ends back outside of the ride because you end up in your escape pod lands in the forests of Batuu, and your ride vehicle ends up physically outside in the forests of Batuu again. It's incredible. The music is playing throughout the whole thing. The sets are incredible. The special effects are incredible. It is a fantastic ride. There's nothing Disney's done that I can think of in the last 30 years that's anything like the combination of effects and experience that they have here.
So it's kind of everything they needed it to be.
Oh yeah, I mean you could not have asked for a better ride. I mean, I guess if you had to fight your way at yourself, that would possibly be a better experience. But I mean, in terms of a ride, this is as good as it gets.
Wow. So they're only. It's not like the bad example here. It's not like a Soarin' where there's different theaters. If one part of this breaks down, the whole thing's down. There's not like 2 different.
So there's I believe there are 2 loading queues.
Okay.
There is only 1 hangar, from what I understand.
Gotcha. That's what I was trying to say.
And I know there are multiple interrogation rooms because when you get to the hallway before the interrogation rooms, it's L-shaped, and Disney was not using all of the interrogation rooms any time that I've ridden. So that tells me obviously that they're not running the ride at 100% capacity. So there are multiple interrogation rooms. I think they all lead, because it's L-shaped, I think they lead to the same sort of launching point for the ride vehicles. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think there's some elements are separate, some elements are together. I think there are 2 exits as well, for whatever reason. I could be wrong on that.
Okay. What do they want the capacity to be? I mean, like, what's it running at now? What do they hope it will be?
I think it's at around, this is what I've heard, 1,700 people an hour, which is, to put it in context, Space Mountain's around 1,800 an hour. I don't think they're anywhere close to that. I don't think they've gotten above 1,100 an hour for any extended period of time recently. Maybe in the last couple of days, like whenever we're airing this. It's been getting better, but it's not where it needs to be. And so one of the initial problems that they had with the ride was when the ride went down, if they dumped the queue, right? If they kicked everybody out, they started off by giving you fast passes to return anytime within. They said within the day, and then they extended it to you can come back tomorrow too. And then what I heard was if you come back anytime in a week, we'll honor it. Okay. And then for me, once I rode, I got another boarding group 157, which they never got to that day. I think they stopped around 110 or 120. So because I got a boarding group and Disney assumed that I waited around all day to ride, when I didn't ride, they gave me a free 1-day park hopper to return.
Oh, wow.
And a fast pass to ride the ride. Right. Okay. Which was exactly what they should have done, for that day. Right. I mean, it's the most that you can expect them to do.
Right.
For a new ride. The problem was this: on day 2, they had to accommodate on the ride not only everybody who wanted to ride that day, who showed up to ride that day, but everybody who didn't get a chance to ride on day 1, plus all the fast passes. Right.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And the ride didn't do much better on day 2. So on day 3, they had all the people who showed up on day 3, plus all the people who didn't get to ride on day 2 with fast passes, plus all the people from day 1 with the fast passes who still hadn't had a chance to ride. Right. So on day 4, basically, you could see the snowball effect.
Yes.
It's happening. Right? So this went on for a little bit more than a week, and then Disney actually stopped giving out fast passes and dumping the queue. At one point, they held people for I think 4 hours in the line, and their idea was this: look, you can stay in the line, we'll let you go out for bathroom breaks or whatever, but we're going to give you food in line and feed you because that's cheaper than giving you fast passes and one day park hoppers. Like we know we can't keep doing this, right? We're just incurring debt later on that the ride's going to have to pay with capacity. That we can't keep doing this. So eventually they changed that policy. They also started tinkering with the boarding groups, pushing the starting time for the boarding groups later and later. So today's policy, the policy that they've enacted in the last couple of days, is this: show up whenever you want to get into the park, but we're not going to start assigning boarding groups until the park's official opening this week at 7 a.m. Right? So for the first couple of weeks the park was open, we were telling people, look, the park's going to open. The park's official opening is 7. We know they're going to open the park at 6. Be there like at 4:30 so that you can be among the first people in the park to get a very early boarding group so you can ride and go about your day afterwards, right? Because let's say the park officially opens at 6, if you got in at 6, even if you were able to get in right at 6, your boarding group would probably be evening, which means you would have to spend 14 hours in the studios.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And if the ride broke down, you've basically wasted all of that time. So if you're going to wake up early, to go to the studios, our advice was, wake up super early, be among the first people in the park, best chance to ride, best chance to get it done. And again, I did that 5 or 6 times in the first 2 weeks. It worked every time. But Disney realizes now that, number one, it's December, so it's a little bit colder at night. Number 2, the park's going to be super crowded. Number 3, you don't want people who are doing their annual Christmas vacation at Walt Disney World have to tell their kids, you got to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to be on this one ride.
Right.
It's just not the way that you want to sell things.
Yeah.
So Disney's tweaking the boarding group policy. I expect it'll be something like this through at least spring break, so at least through the end of March. I don't expect them to go standby anytime soon on it, because if they go by standby, you're back to the same sort of get in line at the park 2 hours early type thing.
Right. Will the Disneyland one be identical as far as we know?
I anticipate them do boarding groups as well. Yeah. Otherwise, again, you're just telling people to show up 2 hours early.
Right. Oh, when this opened, did it have any kind of effect when they opened the Galaxies as in Disneyland as far as people weren't going to the rest of the parks?
It's been surprisingly quiet. I think it's because the park is opening they're opening now Hollywood Boulevard at 6 a.m. They were opening the entire park at 6 a.m., which means if you got, let's say, a late morning boarding group, you could literally go ride Slinky Dog and Toy Story Mania and Tower of Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster inside the first 90 minutes the park is open, because there's, relatively speaking, nobody else there.
Right.
Yeah. So, but now with the park officially opening at 7, they're actually keeping everybody on Hollywood Boulevard. So there's a little bit more of a line, but the crowds have not been anywhere near what we anticipated. I will say this: the word of mouth is getting out that the ride is very good. So we've seen increasing crowds sort of like on a regular basis, not only because we're coming up on Christmas, but because people are making the Star Wars fans and theme park fans are making this special trip to the studios just to see it. Also, for the couple of weeks after the ride opened, or the last couple of weeks before, annual pass holders were blacked out for the holidays, so that also helped with crowds. But yeah, it's I haven't seen a huge increase in park attendance at the studios yet. But I think this is going to be one of those things like Flight of Passage, where it's going to start off slow, but then you're going to have it's going to draw people in for 18 months or 2 years. This ride by itself.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. That sounds incredible. Just incredible.
Yeah. And so the other thing I would mention, Tim, is this. So we survey guests about their ride experiences after their trips. It looks like, so it's early yet, but Rise of the Resistance looks like it will be the most highly rated ride of any Disney or Universal theme park in the United States.
Wow.
Pretty soon. It'll beat out Avatar. And the only reason it'll beat out Flight of Passage is because it looks like Rise of the Resistance is doing slightly better with grade schoolers. It's getting a perfect 5.0 star rating from grade schoolers, whereas Flight of Passage is 4.5 stars.
They're probably watching Star Wars and not Avatar.
Exactly. But every age group from grade schoolers and above rates it 5 stars out of 5.
Wow.
Could not get a higher rating on it. Yeah, it's a fantastic ride.
Is it intense or anything for anybody that might have like back problems or anything like that, where they might have concerns
No, it's all very smooth.
Nice.
There is a small drop at the end. It's not like Tower of Terror scary. It's more like being in an elevator that sort of like bumps down a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, relatively mild. I think there are some flashing light sequences, so if you've got seizures, you might want to check that out. But no, overall, very smooth ride. The visuals are stunning. It's fast, but it's not scary fast. Like it's not like a roller coaster speed. It's mainly you whizzing around a flat, polished concrete floor pretty quickly.
Wow. Any rumor of this going to other Disney parks worldwide?
I would be surprised if it didn't go to one of the Asia parks. Like I'm pretty sure they've either already announced or like strongly hinted at it.
Okay.
I'd be surprised if it didn't go to Paris too.
Right.
Yeah, great ride. One of the best things they've done in a long time.
Oh, awesome. I'm really glad to hear that. I'm really excited to get down there because I got to ride this ride.
Yeah, when are you coming down?
I have nothing planned yet.
Oh, okay.
Daughter in college.
Spring break, but yeah.
But, you never know. I've been known to come down on like 3 days' notice.
Let me know. Let me know when you're down. We'll ride it together if we can.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Len.
Thank you for having me, Tim. I appreciate it.
Len, where can people find you if they have any questions or want to reach out?
My website is touringplans.com. My email address is len@touringplans.com. You can also find us on social media at touringplans on whatever platform you use. And then I also do this podcast called The Disney Dish with Jim Hill, and that's at disneydish.bandcamp.com.
Love it. Love Jim Hill. He's a riot.
Isn't he? He's the best.
Everybody, thanks for joining us on Tim Scott, Facebook, Twitter, ResortLoop.com, the website. Please, everyone, go out there and share the gateway to the magic. And HolidayThon continues. Thank you very much. See ya. Vacation memories will stay with you and your family for a lifetime. The Resort Loop Travel Group was created with this in mind. Our fee-free services will relieve you of the stress and confusion of finding and booking the best vacation at the best price. After booking, we will continue to monitor for ways to save you even more on your vacation. We will check for any upcoming packages and discounts to save you as many vacation dollars as possible. Resort Loop Travel Group, gateway to your magical vacation memories. Get a quote, or for more information, visit ResortLoopTravelGroup.com.